I really hope that you can help us out with that. I've known Jarrett going on
Oh shoot, 15 years.
almost 15 years. We started at law school together, and over the years we've just continued to cause and get into good trouble. I was at the Department of Flying Homelands under the Egan administration, and we championed a lot of, I think, really good initiatives that led to DHHL getting $600 million, which was unheard of at the time, and now feels like, oh, that's a pretty common sense decision, which is why I'm so, one, honored to have been asked to, but two, proud to support him on his campaign for Congress. In a little bit, I'm just gonna let Jarrett speak, and then we'll open it up. Just wanted to lay some groundwork and some ground rules. Town halls are meant to be for everyone in the community. We just ask that everyone show each other aloha. I just want to reset the energy in the space and encourage everyone to just be considerate of everyone's opinions. We've got Kiki here this evening, so we want to make this as family friendly as possible. But that aside, again, thank you all for coming. And without further ado, we want Jarrett to just introduce himself and tell you why he's running for Congress.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm Jarrett Kehokalole. I grew up on the Windward side. My wife is from the Windward side. We met at UH Manoa when we were going there for college. And after we graduated, we moved to the continent for, she attended graduate school and I worked for an attorney at a law firm. And when it was time to have a family, we decided to come home. And we didn't realize until we got back how difficult that actually was and how lucky we were that we had family to help us get here. And how most families like ours are headed in the opposite direction. And I thought that was wrong, and I wanted to do something about it, so I got involved in public service. I ran for the House of Representatives in 2014. I was a big underdog. I knocked on thousands of doors, and I met my community, and I won. In 2018, I ran for the Senate, and big underdog again, and I won. And so I've been in the legislature for 12 years. While I've been in the legislature, I've tried to run to the hard problems and just work on things and focus my energy and effort on issues that I think are gonna help young families like mine stay here and grow up in communities that they grew up in around family, and that we can, try to keep our communities intact and just progress together as a community. When COVID broke out, I asked to take on the health committee chair because I thought that was the biggest challenge and the best way to make an impact. When Red Hill happened, as health committee chair, I got in and worked with Ernie Lau, with the activists who had been pushing for the closure of the facility for years, with scientists at the University of Hawaii, and with other legislative leaders to take on the Navy and get them to shutter the facility. And as Commerce Chair, last year we put together an insurance bill to try and stem the growing property insurance crisis, which is getting worse now because the flood zones designations are changing. Because I like to go in and do the hard things that really matter, that are gonna make a difference for people. When it comes to DC, I just think there's never been a more critical time for us to have strong leadership in Congress. The uncertainty and chaos that we've experienced largely in the last 2 years, but not exclusively since Trump came back into office, is really making things hard for people in Hawaii. People everywhere. We're going through this really, everybody knows that we're going through a very disruptive transition in the world right now, right? And that's impacting us in Hawaii in a unique but not surprising way, because it's just a little bit more challenging for us in Hawaii because of how unique we are, how disconnected we are, and how much just how much more difficult it is to make things happen and get things done in a meaningful and affordable way. And I just feel like we need energy and we need urgency up there. We only have 4 members of Congress that represent Hawaii out of 535 members in the US Congress. We only have 4. So they need to work as a team. They're a small delegation, and if you're small, you need to be mighty. And I feel like we need more urgency and we need leadership now so that we can try and address the things that everybody knows needs to be addressed in Hawaii and across the country. So I'm running because because we need to address the cost of living. I mean, that's the number one priority that I hear from constituents in the community, is that we need to lower costs. Costs that have been spiraling out of control for a while, but are made even worse and more uncertain by the moment we're in and what's happening in DC. We need to protect healthcare. I served as the health chair during COVID. I now serve as the consumer protection chair, and so I'm responsible for health insurance coverage and access across the state. And I can tell you, since the passage of the big bill last summer, we have real healthcare access challenges coming, where we have people that are gonna lose their insurance and their ability to get care. And when that hurts the most vulnerable and they decompensate, then it strains our entire system and it's gonna hurt everybody. So we have a lot of challenges there that we need to make sure we take care of, and that we really gotta fight for at the federal level and make sure that we don't get left behind and forgotten. You know, during COVID, we were last in line when the pandemic broke out for PPE, for medical equipment, for oxygen when the surges happened, and then for vaccines. We cannot expect folks that are not from Hawaii to understand exactly what that means when we experience it here at home. And then, you know, the last thing is we really need to just fight for our future. We need a plan for Hawaii, and we need a better plan for our country. And we need to start focusing on things long-term that are gonna make a difference for young people, for families, and that are gonna move our state forward in an intentional way. We have lots of challenges. We're gonna have control over some of them. We're not gonna have control over others. We cannot control the global tourism market. You know, to a large extent, we cannot control these increasingly frequent and devastating weather events. And so we can't dwell on those things. We gotta work as a community to build resiliency, to plan effectively, and to just take a clear-eyed view on what's coming and start moving in a direction that's gonna make more sense. Because I think that's what people want. That's what I've heard when I've gone around communities for the last 10 months. We've knocked on doors all over Congressional District 1, which is most of Lower Oahu. And by Lower Oahu, I mean from this high school south. That's basically Congressional District 1, 750,000 people in greater Honolulu. It's the seat of power. It's the economic engine of the state of Hawaii. It's the central command of the United States military's Indo-Pacific footprint, the largest centralized military command in the world. It's the center of tourism. It's the center of traffic. And it's 90% of the highway system in the state of Hawaii. And you know, it is the melting pot, and it is our community. And I wanna be a part of it, and I wanna make sure I understand where everybody's at. I know we don't all agree on everything, and more than likely, in fact, if I don't find, sometimes it's, I might get myself in trouble, because if I cannot find an area where I don't disagree with all of you, then it starts to make me paranoid that I'm trying to pander. We have to be willing to have disagreements, and we have to be willing to have sincere conversations about where the boundaries are so that we can figure out where we see eye to eye and try to make progress and work together. That's what I really like to do. I'm not afraid to fight. I'm not afraid to fight. I'll fight alone if I have to. I have in the past. I've taken on powerful institutions in Hawaii and slept soundly at night. And so I'm happy to do that if I feel like it's necessary up there. I think it's a quality that you need to have up there. But I also know how to work together. And I'm proud of the fact that I can admit when I'm wrong. I think it's a quality that none of the other people in my race can exhibit. I've learned very well how to do that from my wife, Ku'ulani, who's right here. She's trained me well. But what that means is that I strongly believe that you need to run to the hard problems, you need to focus on what really matters, and you need to figure out a way to be as useful and effective at making, at coming to solutions that are gonna help local people, help families, and get us on the right track for the future. If that means playing second banana on a team of 4 in Washington, then I'm happy to do it. If it means fighting, I'm happy to do it. If it means apologizing and reconciling and admitting mistakes, then I'm willing to do it. Yeah, so that's it. I really appreciate the time, and I thank you guys for coming. You know, we're building a campaign. I'm 10 months in. The election is in August. I'm grateful to have you here, and I'm happy to have a conversation. So thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, Ed Case is the incumbent. He's served in office for a long time. He is a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. We are running in the primary election, which is August 8th, the first Saturday in August. There'll be a general election after that, and I'll be back here again to have that conversation against whoever the general election opponents might be. But for now, I'm running against an incumbent who is well known, very entrenched, and not an easy person to defeat in a community where people are very familiar with incumbents and often inclined to, you know, when you get the ballot, there's so many people that run. This is what I try to explain to my constituents. Can you tear off a paper towel? So people don't remember until they get to the election is I'm running on. This is not part of my stump speech. My campaign manager is like, got me on the clock, but you get the ballot. And if it's a presidential election, you know Trump's up there, and you know Harris is up there, and what everybody forgets every election is that there's the American Shopping Party person, and the Libertarian, and the Green Party, and the Aloha Aina candidate, and you get 7 other people besides the 2 you recognize, and then you get Congress, and there's the Democrat and the Republican and 6 other people, and so you're halfway down the front of the front page of the ballot, and you've only gotten 2 races because there are so many other parties and candidates that you never heard of. By the time you get to the back, these are the people in the community that you're really used to, your representatives, your senators. And then you get to before it was the Board of Education or OHA, and by then most people are tired. They've seen 50 names, and they're just looking for people that they remember. And that's how incumbents win. They're looking for names that they are familiar with. And so I have a major challenge. I have a major challenge to get out to community and introduce myself to people and let them know that I'm a real person who cares and can do the job, and teach them my name so that they can remember it on the ballot when it comes time to vote. I think people want change. I think people are frustrated with what's happening. There are lots of reasons why the frustration is building. But if we just keep picking the same leadership over and over again, then we shouldn't expect anything more than the same. And so I'm offering change. It might be challenging change. It might take some time to get familiar with it. But I am change. And I'm willing to do the work, and I'm willing to put the effort in it to do it the right way. So thanks for letting me talk. Yeah.
Take a seat.
Okay.
I did want to recognize his wife, Ulani Misho, Kihokulole, was in the back, and all 3 of their children came from the windward side. Gas is expensive, so two car rides out to Mililani and back is commitment. What we are going to do is open it up for open discussion. I'll try to moderate. This is his daughter, Aria.
Thank you. Thank you. She wants to be a senator. She's got great timing.
I'll try to moderate as best as possible. But why don't we, before I open it up, in the back, if you folks feel compelled and you would like to join our list of volunteers or receive information about the campaign, you can do so back there. We have t-shirts. We'll actually be walking the district over the next few weeks. Our volunteers will be getting out into Central Oahu specifically. So if you want a t-shirt or you want some materials to share with your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, we ask that you do that. But other than that, does anyone want to start us off with any questions? Or if you don't have a question, if there's something that's really important to you as a constituent here in Mililani, we'd love to hear that too. Does anyone want to kick us off?
Oh, please, go ahead.
So you keep saying you're going to be for change.
Sure.
How are you going to be different from Case? Can you give me specifics?
Yeah, sure. I think, number one, we need to focus on things that really care about, that constituents really care about. And I don't think he's doing that. Lowering costs, getting us out of this war and reversing tariffs are the most straightforward way to lower costs for community right now.
How is he not doing that, and how would you do it?
Ed Case sits on the Defense Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee in the U.S. House of Representatives. It is arguably, and he will tout that membership as one of the more influential positions in the United States Congress. Right now, his Defense Subcommittee that he sits on is vetting the Trump administration's proposal for more munitions to continue the conflict in Iran. The conflict changes every day. I haven't checked the news in 5 hours, so I'm not even sure where we are right now. But the last time I checked, that budget proposal was $200 million, including offensive weapons like Patriot missiles, in addition to Iron Dome. 200 billion, I'm sorry. They've also released their federal budget, which includes, if I'm not mistaken, $1.5 trillion in military funding, okay? A study came out recently, and I can send you the citation because I think people should Google stuff that I say and keep me honest, that estimated just funding for military operations that were conducted in 2025 was $4,600 a resident. A resident. So what am I going to do differently? I'm going to take a position on the Iran war, which is that we should stop. We should have never gotten into this mess in the first place, and it should end now. We need a permanent ceasefire, and we need to get out of this situation because it is destabilizing the global economy. It is perpetuating war, and people are dying. And so Ed has not taken a position on the conflict. What he has said is that constitutionally, President Trump should have asked Congress for permission.
That's it.
That's it. And so what he could do in his position as a member of the Defense Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee in the House is he could come out publicly and oppose even one more dollar to go to this bananas operation that we have going on right now. Yeah.
How much of your constituency is military?
A really significant amount. I don't know the exact number, but the district is adjacent to Schofield Barracks. It includes Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. It includes multiple training sites. It includes Marine base housing in Manana and Pearl City, in Kalailoa, and at Red Hill.
Okay, because I think it's critical because they're really torn. They're
Yeah.
torn, they're coming out saying that they're against this, but what are they going to do? So how
Right.
are you going to be able to address that? That might be something that.
A number of them vote from the state that they're from. They don't necessarily.
Well, but there's still, and that's a fair point. I've run into constituents. To me, if they live in the district, they're constituents, right? The district I represent on the Windward side includes Marine Corps Base Hawaii. Most of the Marine Corps personnel vote in their home state. They're still our responsibility, and they're still participating United States citizens that are members of the community. Professional military personnel will stay agnostic on political matters because they've taken an oath and they report to the commander-in-chief. We have checks and balances in our system. Trump is the commander-in-chief. He gives the orders. They fulfill the orders. There's a process when military members elect to refuse following orders they deem illegal, and that will be run through the Military Code of Justice. But when it comes to military personnel, we have to make sure that they're supported. So part of what we've tried to do at Red Hill, for example, is make sure that we're keeping the Navy honest and demanding transparency when it comes to what happened with the spill, which primarily harmed military members who lived on base and use the military's water, 93,000 user water system. If you folks remember when the spill happened in 2021, I think it was 2,500 military residents spent the holidays at hotels in Waikiki because they could not drink the water at their residences. We have a long way to go when it comes to cleaning up Red Hill. And so we can support the military, we can demand accountability, and we can reject requests for funding in the Congress for new military operations that make things worse in the world. And we can focus instead on taking care of families who've been harmed by the spill and pursuing a long-term cleanup of the degradation at Red Hill, not just in the water system, but in the ground below. We have aquifer concerns about the fuel spill. We don't know where all that fuel went. I was part of a group that worked with, as I mentioned before, that put together an independent report on where we think the spread of pollution from the Red Hill spill went and what we think the steps should be taken by the Navy and by the local government in order to make sure that we understand what's happening below and that we don't contaminate our municipal aquifer. So, you can support the military and provide the resources that military members and families need to do their jobs, and expect them to be professional and stay neutral, and also oppose this reckless war we've got. I'll tell you, I'm 42 years old. So from a generational standpoint, I'm a millennial. I'm a millennial. 2 weeks into my freshman year at UH Manoa, 9/11 happened. So I remember waking up and the towers were down and going into school that day, and at the campus center they had a big TV and they just had it nonstop on the news. And so that was my first semester in college, my first semester as an adult. I was 17 years old. And from 2001 to 2003, we followed the run-up to the war in Iraq. And from 2003 to 2008, we followed very closely the war. I never served, but I have many friends who did and went on tours and came back. We know people in the community, Ku'u and I, who did not come back. And then in 2008, the recession happened. And honestly, that's when we got involved in politics, because that's my adult life up to that point, is terror, war, and then recession. And it really frustrates me that we are introducing another generation to that experience. Yeah. I know that we have independents here, and I'm a Democrat. I don't know, I was too young for Reagan. I don't know a Republican president that hasn't taken us into a war in the Middle East. That's every Republican president I've been alive for. And none of them have gone well. And I'm sick of it. And so we got to stop this.
They killed 45, 50,000 of their own people. You just turned your back on that?
What? Sorry?
Iran, RGC?
Oh, it's a horrible repressive regime.
So you just turned your back on that?
It's a horrible repressive regime that we've entrenched by bombing them from afar. There's a century of military history that shows when you bomb from afar, you entrench the powers that control the country. It didn't work in Germany, it didn't work in Japan, or Korea, or Vietnam, or in Iraq. Bombing from afar does not work. And so if we're gonna pursue regime change to pursue justice for the people of Iran from that repressive regime, how do you do that by bombing from afar when we have a century of history telling us it doesn't work? And we have 40 years of history telling us that putting boots on the ground to try and achieve regime change doesn't work either.
So what do you do?
It didn't work in Iraq, it didn't work in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But there are lots of people that I know,
Yeah.
live in New Jersey, and I have friends who are the Iranian Americans, and they say this is the best thing that has happened, because they've been repressed. They came here as seeking asylum from You know, and they live here, they have never been able to go back to Iran, and there's a very big,
And they're not going to be able to go back now, because what's happened is, you can go back and read, you can read the reporting on this right now, and then if I'm wrong, then you can feel free to come back and we can have a conversation about it. The initial strikes were so reckless that many of the moderates in the regime, and there's lots of reporting on this, were killed in the strikes. And so what we've done is we've replaced the hardliners with what's left of the hardline regime, and they're even more radical. That many of the moderates in the Iranian regime are dead because we killed them in the strikes. And so, yes, we should not support the continuation of any repressive regime around the world. But what we definitely should avoid is getting ourselves caught up in another quagmire that makes it worse.
We should let them develop a nuclear weapon.
Is that what they were doing?
That's the word. We don't
Trump announced after the strikes last year that they would not be able to develop a weapon. There's no evidence that they have that capability, that they were moving in that direction. There's no, if there's evidence, I'd love to have you show it to me. Go ahead.
So let's
Go ahead,
say-
and then we can go to you. Yeah,
So let's say we get out of the war,
sure.
right? We're not spending that money. I think, like, my kids are in their 20s. What can Congress do to make staying in Hawaii, being able to afford to live here, et cetera, what do you see as congressional folks' power to do that?
I mean,
What do you see that
most
role?
of the underlying systems that support our economy in Hawaii are tethered to federal programs. So infrastructure is the quickest, easiest way for us to make a significant difference in Hawaii. The biggest impact, and we have Councilmember Wire here from the City Council, and he will tell you as well, the biggest impediment we have to addressing our 60,000 unit housing shortage is the lack of infrastructure, particularly on Oahu, because Oahu is crowded, and we need to build up, because continuing to build more houses north is just going to clog the freeway even worse.
Yeah, my kid
We need
works
to
in that.
redevelop in the urban area so that it's easier for people to move around and that they have more access to the things that they need. So infrastructure is one. I mean, it's really the basics. It's healthcare, so that people don't go bankrupt if there's some sort of disaster, so that people have access to care, and we don't see decompensation of folks that are the most vulnerable. So, I mean, when we lose coverage from this big bill, it'll happen in 3 years. What we're trying to plan for now at the state level is what happens when people that we've pulled off the street and stabilized. There are lots of homeless, it's a big problem, but we have pulled people out of homelessness and got them into stable situations. But if they lose access to care and they decompensate, they start calling the ambulances again, they start walking into the ERs when there's a storm and they're sick and they're tired, and then that swamps the system for everybody else that really needs it. I mean, it is the basics. It's education, it's infrastructure, it's housing, and then it's supporting modern approaches to retooling our economy so that locally we stay competitive and our talented people have opportunities to stay here and develop careers. We're not doing any of that right now. We're fighting amongst ourselves, and we're getting caught up in whatever this week's controversy is. And we need to start focusing on things that are going to put us on the right direction in the long run. China is doing that much better than we are, and it's a real problem. They are outcompeting us on many levels, and it's making, it's just going to make things more difficult for us to deal with here in Hawaii. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I tried to write down questions as professionally as possible. This was awesome. I took journalism.
Thank you.
college.
Go ahead.
So, a couple of questions. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
And, in Maui, when we witnessed a really horrifying fire, and our church came together and they, helped all the members of the community and everyone who lost their homes. And I know Josh Green praised us. In fact, he was featured in our church newsroom video. My question is, will you have like a good relationship with churches in this community in your district? So like such as involving the community service. Even we were heavily involved in like cleanup of Waialua and the flood, which our members, because we take care of the Waialua War, it's under our stake. We, the youth, which I'm really impressed, we went out there to volunteer and like shoveled like 5 pounds of mud out of people's homes. So we like kind of like help support like churches that can help with like like in disaster release or any like community service probably, and then built like a strong relationships between like the DC, the public, and the churches.
Tell me where you're going with the last part of that question. I mean, the first part is absolutely, and I've seen it happen, and you're totally right. Churches are communities, and so when there's a disaster, neighbors helping neighbors is the quickest, fastest, most effective, most efficient way for community involvement to happen. They were way faster than the city and the state and the feds in Wailua. That was what happened in Lahaina. It's always going to happen. You can make, lots of fair statements about how long it took for the government to get to the scene and make things happen, but it's always going to be the community, and I've seen the churches come forward in those situations, all the time. So what's the second part?
We bring a good relationship, especially like a lot of us do a lot of community service. That's why.
I mean, I'm happy to partner with the churches. We did in Kaneohe because it was actually the churches that started up. They started up the name of it is escaping me, but oh shoot, I'm losing the name of it. The Catholic Church, the Baptist Church, and the Lutheran Church in Kaneohe got together in 2018, and they started jointly holding one day a month where they would welcome the homeless to come and get a meal. And it happened at the Baptist Church in Kaneohe behind Ben Parker School. And it got so well known among the community of folks on the street and in the bushes or who were homeless, that service providers, social workers, social service providers started to come. We started getting people signed up for benefits. The courts came and did community courts there, which would help people on the street take care of their traffic tickets or citations, which if you get caught sleeping in a closed park and you have existing citations would trigger arrest and people would decompensate. That all happened from the churches. They came to us to ask for help. We put money into the Civic Center in Kaneohe and we built them out a space. It's under construction right now, but it only happened because they came to see us. And they didn't ask anybody for permission. Different denominations came together and they just took the lead. So I'd be happy to come and talk to the folks at your church if you guys want to have a conversation.
Come down this Sunday if you like, in Midline 4th Ward at 10:30 if you like.
I have a funeral on Sunday, but we can talk about, but maybe next Sunday.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I want to get through this real quick.
Sure.
I got like three more questions. So this is one, and I know you mentioned about those that are independents, and I think the biggest problem we have is a lot of division and polarization. And one of the things I didn't like with Byron Downs and Burgess Owens, who else? Wesley Hunt and John James. They're black, but they're part of the GOP, and I know they put their membership with the Black Congressional Caucus, but their own brothers and sisters wouldn't allow them because of the party affiliation. And I don't really like that because I feel like it's putting your own people down. And me, I like to hang out with people of all different races, and they're all my friends. So will you kind of bring like peacemaking to DC and people to meet in the middle? And I want to share this quote. We were invited about this about peacemaking. Several years ago, two men, a Muslim and a Christian pastor from Nigeria, stood on opposite sides of a painful religious divide. Each had suffered deeply, and yet, through the healing power of forgiveness, they chose to walk the path together. Ian Muhammad Ashifa and Pastor James Wayne became friends and unlikely partners in peace. Together, they established a center for interfaith meditation and now teach each other to replace hostile with hope. As two-time nominees for the Nobel Peace Prize, they recently become inaugural recipients of the Commonwealth Peace Prize. These former enemies now travel side by side, rebuilding what was broken, now living witnesses. Will you ever try to be that example in D.C.?
Absolutely. I mentioned it earlier. When I feel like we need to fight, I'm going to fight, and I'm not going to have any reservations or guilt about it. But I'm happy to work, and I've tried to build coalitions whenever I thought it made sense for people to come together. There are lots of issues at the state level, but also at the congressional level, where you have broad bipartisan support. It just doesn't get picked up in anyone's media universe because it's boring. I'll tell you, when I first got elected, we sat down with the communications person in the House of Representatives in Hawaii, and she was a former news reporter. And she said, what you guys need to understand is that the press looks for, I think she said the 4 C's: conflict, corruption, controversy, and then there was one more I can't remember, right? But that's what they're looking for. And you can go and look right now online when it comes to social media. What they've found, what the social media companies have found is that the emotion that elicits the most engagement on social media is rage. Well, the clicks, but there's an emotional reaction that you get from funny videos, from food videos, from right. But the one that gets the highest amount of engagement is rage. It's extremely profitable, and
Rage against others.
just in general. If you are triggered in a way that upsets you, that gives you the highest likelihood of clicking, of liking, of staying on the video, of sharing, of commenting, okay? What they don't talk about is how much bipartisan support there is for substance abuse treatment. There's lots. When I get there, we're gonna spend a lot of time working on methamphetamine, because it's different than fentanyl and the opioids, which has had so much attention and money and resource devoted to it. So much so that at the state level, we put together an opioid program, even though 90% of the long-term residents of the Hawaii State Hospital are methamphetamine addicts who now have debilitating mental health conditions or were self-medicating their mental health conditions with methamphetamine. AI is bipartisan. I'm very technologically inclined. I think that there's a lot that can be done on digital currency that can help put us at the forefront instead of being on the back foot. I'm not a type of legislator that seeks to ban stuff first. I want to learn the space. I want to figure out where the kids are at on it. And I want to figure out how we can take responsible action that people can benefit from without fighting the tide. So on the things that really matter, I think you're going to find a lot more agreement in Congress. It's just not as profitable to brag about it or to get it covered in the media.
Okay, so third question.
I got to take, we'll come back to you. There's another one. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Senator. Since the start of Trump's administration, over 1.2 million individuals from the United States have been either forcibly deported or chosen to self-deport due to the increase of ISIS violence. And over 100 of that number are from Hawaii. If elected to Congress, what will you do to protect our communities from ICE?
I'm going to be a whole lot more aggressive than Ed Case is. Part of the reason why I ran for office is I was very upset with him for refusing to sign on to a letter that the other 3 congressional members signed on to get some clarity around who was being taken into custody in Hawaii, where they were being taken to, and whether due process was being applied. There's a specific incident, and again, you guys can look this up, that took place on Maui over the summer, where a Coast Guard interdiction team, which are basically SWAT team personnel that raid drug boats, they were not co-opted, what's the word? They were designated for ICE assignment. They raided a house on Maui that was suspected to have undocumented individuals in it. They did it SWAT style because they are interdiction personnel. They kicked the door down at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. They grabbed everyone out of the house and threw them on the ground in the street and zip tied them. It was 12 Filipino teachers. 11 of them were traveling teachers with appropriate visa paperwork, and the 12th was a US citizen that owned the house. They didn't clear identification until later that morning, but they didn't catch anybody illegal. And Ed refused to say a word, and it pissed me off. You know, in 2024, 2 years ago, there was a bipartisan piece of legislation that was negotiated in the Congress to amend the immigration system and get us on a reasonable path to figure out how to bring people in, how to provide a path to citizenship, and also, because it was bipartisan, there was plenty of money and resource put in there for border security. That bill was introduced by James Lankford, the senator from Oklahoma, one of the most conservative senators in the Congress, a pastor from Oklahoma. That bill has not moved an inch in the last 2 years. And instead, we've seen massive increases in the budget of ICE and just a lot of unrest around the country. So we can fight the ICE funding. We can fight to make sure that due process is being observed and executed in Hawaii. And we can care about this issue. That's the number one thing. Where you put your attention is where you can make a difference. And I don't think enough of our congressmen's attention is being put on stuff that matters. Yeah.
You didn't respond to that question, why you didn't sign on?
So I don't remember the specific quote, but it was something akin to, I support the president's push to address illegal immigration. It was something like that. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
Are you in favor of immigration, people crossing the border seeking asylum?
I think we should have an asylum process. Every country in the world has an asylum process. It's been overwhelmed because we haven't had changes made to the system.
How many should we let in?
Oh, I don't know what the number is. I'm from Hawaii. You know, I mean, I don't know what a reasonable, how many people do you think we should allow to come in if they have a valid asylum claim?
There's 1 million people a year that are allowed in.
Well, not anymore. And then we don't have a system that allows them a proper path to become citizens. And we had legislation on the table that was bipartisan, that was Republican introduced, that hasn't moved at all. And so I don't think you can reasonably argue that what is going on right now is a rational and intentional attempt to fix the immigration system. I think what we have right now is a breakneck attempt at cracking down and expelling as many people as possible, regardless of whether they have been properly identified as undocumented or not. And I think it's wrong. Okay, who's next?
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I don't know how good the Mililani football team is going to be this year, but they've been pretty good lately. Yeah. I'm a St. Louis grad, so I can talk football all day. If you guys want to change the subject, but go ahead. Yeah.
I think, I could be wrong, I think, so there was just a vote to send money to Israel and bulldozers. And I believe Ed Case voted to send bulldozers to Israel. How would you vote on those? You know about the vote.
So I've already committed to
Nothing to,
support
specifically Israel.
support resolutions that have been put forward to stop funding offensive weapons to Israel. I'm forgetting why are we giving bulldozers to Israel? Israel's a rich country. They can afford their own bulldozers. I'm forgetting the bill, but there's existing federal law that prohibits the funding of foreign governments that utilize those funds to commit violations of international law. And I definitely think we are in war crimes territory in Gaza. And so there's a legitimate question as to whether existing federal law prohibits any future military funding to Israel. It's an open question now.
I don't even understand why we're paying as taxpayer dollars, are paying for any Israel's defensive weapons. Why aren't they buying them from us? They can buy them. Why do we have to pay for it? Why do we, the taxpayers, have to pay for their defensive weapons? Why aren't they buying them from us?
So, we just got to get out of the war business in the Middle East. I'm tired of it. It's part of why we latched on to the Obama campaign is because he was trying to get us out of that, and we need to stop doing this over and over again. It costs. We end up paying for it in the long run. I mean, a significant amount of the national debt is just financing from the Iraq War. So it's just got to stop.
It's
Yeah.
not only the debt, it's the lives lost.
That's a better
One of my
point.
dear friends is Tammy Duckworth.
Yeah.
And you may not like her, but she's a dear friend of mine. McKinley grad, class of 1985, from Hawaii. So put that in, and she has been a very outspoken person against the war, and she is 199% right. She's really, seriously. And when she speaks, and it probably enrages the Trump people, but I'm okay with that. Just because you said, like when you go on social media and you see it, and she'll get a lot of negativity if she's, and she was on there today. But that is something that, I'm just really worried for my grandsons and my granddaughters, that they're going to have to they're going to be drafted. And if you don't think that's a reality, I'm going back to before Vietnam. And that was a reality. And if that doesn't scare the heck out of everybody, you need to really take a good look at yourselves and say, what are we doing?
Yeah. What happened to America First? As in, why are we paying ourselves first with the education, housing, those issues, versus we're paying for other people to go to war? Why? This has nothing to do with us. The Middle East has nothing to do with us. Why are we even over there? And if you're going to say, well, they're hurting their people, well, we got 2 people that died in our country by our government. We have plenty of governments around the world that are killing their people. Why aren't we going into theirs? Because we can't afford it. It's not our problem. It's their problem, not ours. And we should be funding it. My money, my taxpayer dollars should be coming to our country to pay for our health care, for our education systems, instead of it all going to crap because we're paying for somebody else's war. And the billionaire war industry is making hands over fists, taking all that money.
So you know what? I mean, that's a lot. Honestly, that's a lot of what I heard out of Trump in 2016, and it was the one thing that I agreed with, because I can give credit where it's due with people that I don't agree with. Well, but we had that from 16 to 20, and we had it in 2025. I don't know how we went so far off of that so fast, and we are in a mess right now. It's destabilized it's destabilized the United States' place in the world, and we're not gonna be the same regardless of the outcome. And I think reasonable people can disagree on, can debate on, what the direction is supposed to be had we not done it. But now we got to have real hard conversations about where we're going to go going forward, given the fact that so much of it is now broken. And we need grown-ups that are willing to have that conversation, and it's going to require us to disagree on things. But this is not the America of 2003. That's gone. The world is no longer our oyster, and we're going to have to reckon with that. And maybe maybe that was the case in 2024. That's probably fair as well. But I don't think that what's happened in the last 2 years has made things any better. So I'll stop there. Go ahead, council member.
Appreciate that. I'm just curious, I wanted to maybe share a little bit about just knowing, right, you went to law school.
Yeah.
There's like 1,000 things you could be doing. I know like the job you're in now, is also an investment by your family.
Sure.
And so you shared a little bit about, what was going on in the world when you first got into office, but I'm just curious, like, what's top of mind and what keeps you continuing to serve?
Yeah.
Like, continuing to put in those hours and do the work that you do.
So my brother lives in Mililani Mauka in a townhouse that he rents. He's not here right now because he's an operator. He works construction. My dad was a construction worker. 7 uncles, operators. Both brothers, construction workers. I graduated from St. Louis, all boys school. We used to drive by UH Manoa when I was in high school, and I saw girls there. So that's honestly why I went to college. Otherwise, I would be an operator as well. That's the honest truth. He's working 7 days a week overtime at Pearl Harbor right now on a project on the base because he got 4 kids and he needs to earn a living. And my dad, when I was little, my dad helped build Westlock when he was an operator. And I remember him working 7 days a week to make overtime so that he could pay for his 3 boys in his rental in Kaneohe. We haven't made any progress. And I worry all the time that I'm not just gonna miss him on the town hall tonight, that he's gonna move away. When I ran for office in Kaneohe, a lot of people knew my aunties, my uncles. My grandfather was the first cab driver in Kaneohe. And when I first ran, I had a couple of kupuna tell me stories about him, about how he used to take them over the Pali to Woolworth at Aloha Tower to buy school clothes. And they'd wait all day. And my grandfather died before I was born. I never knew those stories, And it made me realize, I come from a family that has a good reputation in the community. And that went a long way to allowing people to take a chance on me. Because there are certain people in the community that will not vote for me because my name is long and scary. And they have explained to me. I thank all of you for even taking a chance because they've told me. But if they move away, then none of that community, none of that matters, And that's not just me. That's everybody that grew up in Hawaii. Like you said, you live in Mililani 50 years. 50 years. So people know you, people know him that he doesn't know because they know you. And I can tell you I know that because it's happened to me. Because I've run into people at the grocery store who say, "Oh, I went to high school with Jan, your auntie, who also passed away when I was a baby." And that kind of community is really special here. And it's special everywhere in the country, but it's extra special here. And I understand it, and we're struggling to make that all happen as well. And you got to keep the focus on that. I don't think there's enough focus on that, and there's not enough urgency. This is a problem it's an immediate problem. If my brother and them have some sort of issue, some sort of healthcare thing, some sort of anything, or the landlord decides to make a change, they're just in deep trouble. My parents are older, they're retired. My dad is extra grumpy. We're just trying to look out for everybody, and I know that's what everybody else is dealing with. And on Oahu, in Honolulu, it's a little bit harder because it's crowded, and there aren't options for people to just get some breathing room to be able to relax, you know, like, so I mean, that's what I think about when we got to make hard decisions, when we have to tell people no, when you have to tell people why. So I don't hear that. And there's never been a time where it's more important to have that kind of perspective up there because things are not going well. You know, it's never mattered more in this moment where we talked about it this whole time. The moment we're in right now is fraught, and everybody knows it. And we're in this geopolitical competition around, and we're right in the center of it, honestly. Are we in a Cold War right now? No? Okay.
With who? With everybody?
No, I mean, we're in a great power competition right now with China. And we are right in the middle. We are right in the middle.
We're going to take one last question, and then I'm going to wrap it up.
No, I'm not done with this point yet. No, okay. No. You guys got it. I can tell. You guys understand where we're at. Go ahead. Yeah.
One thing I'm concerned about that I don't hear Congress or Democrat, whatnot,
Sure.
is about our big overinflated deficit. I'll just tell you, 1970, the deficit was 371 billion. Now it is ballooned to pretty much 38 trillion. So I really feel it's important that these things be addressed, and especially with all the fraud that's going on, whether or not Medicaid, welfare, whole gamut, okay? That how much longer is this going to go on before we end up collapsing?
Yeah. And when Bill Clinton finished his term, we were in a surplus. He got rid of the debt. And he did it with Republican support.
That's right.
And there are liberals to this day that are mad at him about it.
Yeah, they used to work.
To this day that are mad at him about it. But, go back and look at the deficits under Democrats and the deficits under Republicans. You can't address the deficit if you start a war.
Exactly.
So that's the primary thing in front of us when it comes to that. We can address the deficit. It is a problem, but I just have a hard time reckoning the deficit discussions when we're passing bills that provide tax breaks to certain segments of the population that really don't need any help, and then we just frivolously spend on things that I don't think are priorities, like a centralized federal police force that has AI surveillance technology that's running operations in every jurisdiction around the world, around the country, but principally in blue cities. Like $1 billion for a jet that the president is going to take as his personal property when he leaves office.
That's correct.
Like the fraud that's happening, when it comes to white-collar crime, which is being prosecuted at the lowest levels in our country in, I think it was 50 years. I saw it recently. Yeah, there's Medicaid fraud. I was waiting for Elon to go after it during Doge, and it didn't happen. There's welfare fraud. I expected that during Doge, and it didn't happen. We can have reasonable conversations about the debt, but let's start at the reality, which is that the debt is spiraling out of control right now because we're not making sound decisions in our geopolitics, but also in our domestic agenda.
And it certainly doesn't help that Trump is suing our country, suing the IRS for $10 billion. And
No, it doesn't.
What agency would you call effective and efficient?
Sorry?
What agency would you call effective and efficient, federal agency?
Wait, give me a second. I want to see if I can actually answer this one honestly with a name. Because at the state level, I've been in office for 12 years, and I'll tell you that I don't think I can give you that answer either.
Look at that case. Could I ask him that question?
Yeah. Well, I would say the military because of their capability, but the reality is that the military is the largest bureauccy on earth.
No, it's not effective and efficient.
Yeah.
It's not efficient.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, the goal is to make things better, right? Again, I just said we should have a clear-eyed, critical assessment of where we're at, because you can't gauge how well you're doing unless you do that. But the goal is to make things better, right?
The thing I read, this school, 40% of the students can't do read or math to grade level. This is the number 2 high school in the state.
Really?
No, where'd you get those numbers from?
I just read it.
You just read it on social media?
No, I read it actually
Take
in a
notes.
magazine. That's talking about other
We're
schools.
not talking about SBA.
Yeah, he's probably not far off. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and spin on things that I think are right. And like I said, we have lots of problems we need to solve.
Well,
But the place we can start is by stopping the bleeding. We can stop making it worse.
so yeah,
Right.
There've been cut after cuts for the education department.
I mean, we have
And
lots of
those
reasons
are
why.
behind and let them go ahead. and
Sure.
not- And, you know, you let them go ahead instead of putting them back so that they weren't, the education was forced.
Yeah.
The education institutions were forced to push these students through instead of making them better. And
Yeah.
then money was cut from them, programs were cut. So, I
Right.
mean, it's.
Well, you can't make it better if you're not willing to sincerely
Put the money in.
take a clear-eyed look at what's going on and have a real conversation about, you know, what's not working. You can't make anything better if you don't admit it's not working. So, you know, I mean, I'm not going to argue your point. There's lots that we can do, and I think Republicans and Democrats agree on that part as well. It's just where we're organizing ourselves on the priority list, and whether we can separate our feelings from the facts and have a reasonable conversation together. And then when we come to an agreement, can we just move with speed to make things happen?
That won't happen until Trump leaves office, and you have to hope that one of his sons doesn't want to run too. So.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. You know, I mean, fundamentally, I do believe in the democratic process. The democratic process is messy, and that's what you get. And so you're never going to have. I mean, we haven't had an election in my lifetime where half the country wasn't upset because their guy lost, right? And is there cutting corners, and is there cheating to try and get an advantage? Yeah. Why? Because the margin in the country is so thin. It's like baseball, right? Everybody's got tar under their belt that they're trying to put on the baseball to get an edge. And I'll tell you, there are lots of countries around the world that look at America and they follow the elections. We saw it. Ku and I saw it in 2024. Countries around the world, they watch our elections. Why do they watch our elections so closely? You can argue it's because we're so powerful and influential on their lives. The reason they watch our elections is because they don't know who's going to win. They don't know who's going to win.
Yay.
And to me, that means,
They're doing something right.
to me, that means it's a real democracy, right? Do we export drama? Absolutely, we do, right? Absolutely, we do, right? But if you don't know who's going to win, then doesn't that mean the system is working? Because we know who's going to win the next Russian election.
Are you in favor of voter ID?
If it doesn't violate the 24th Amendment, yeah. Ed supported the SAVE Act, which is going to require women, 40 million women across the country, to go buy a passport. Their birth certificate and marriage certificate together will not qualify as effective registration. So if you have to pay extra money for a special identification to vote, that's a poll tax. So if it's free, If you have to buy a passport, it's a poll tax, and it's prohibited by the 24th Amendment. So,
Any ID, don't you have to pay for every ID you get? Even a state
so
ID?
Wisconsin, I think, has a voter ID requirement, but the ID is free.
But we don't. Our IDs we have to pay for, right, here in Hawaii?
Yeah, but that's why we don't have a voter ID requirement. We have plenty of checks and balances in our system, and I have asked for years for the voter critical community in my district. I'd asked them for years for any sort of evidence at all that we have a problem here. I'll tell you, I mean, the elections in the purple districts on this island are consistently decided by 200 votes or less. You can go back and look at it. Brenton Awa, my colleague, who serves on my committees, who serves on my Commerce Committee, we get along fine. I think he won by less than 50 votes, right? That district has gone Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. How can you argue there's fraud if the thing keeps changing,
And that's
right?
just it. They've proven there's
So,
no fraud nationwide.
anyway, I think I'm supposed to stop. I'm happy to talk some more. We can talk some more, but I gotta.
Well, I'm not the boss. It's actually his 3 kids who I think would like ice cream on their Friday night with their dad.
Oh yeah, I gotta go and.
Senator will be around for a bit more to talk.
Yeah.
But what I do want to do is just remind everyone, we're actually doing 3 more of these. One in